Tonight you drift back to a century that does not know your name. The year is hidden in candlelight and smoke, the air heavy with the weight of unspoken prayers, and the smell of bread gone hard on the hearth. Outside, the streets are narrow, dark even in the day, their mud pressed flat by cartwheels and bare feet. Inside, the walls lean with age, and the wind finds every crack it can to remind you it is still winter. You are not yet grown, though the world has decided otherwise. The dress you wear is not yours by choice, nor is the ring that slides too easily along your finger. You are a bride, though the word feels strange in your mouth, something overheard, not lived. The day has been full of faces that looked at you without seeing you, of hands arranging your hair, your sleeves, your fate. The fire in the hearth burns low. Now, the voices in the next room have softened into murmurs, then silence. The house smells of wool and smoke and the faint, sweet tang of ale. Somewhere in the dark a floorboard shifts, and you remember this is home now. Close your eyes. The night will not wait for you. The room is small, and it does not smell like the one you knew before. The air here is thick with the scent of someone else's life. Wool blankets that have held other bodies, rushes on the floor that have not been changed in months, the lingering smoke from a fire that has been burning for years in the same hearth. You stand at the doorway for a moment before entering, feeling the weight of it all press against your skin. The bed is not yours, though it will be called yours now. The frame is heavy oak, dark and carved with patterns you can't quite see in the dim light. The mattress is a sack of straw flattened by years of use, the lumps pressing up at odd angles beneath the thin linen sheet. It smells faintly of damp, faintly of sweat, and faintly, uncomfortably of the man who has been sleeping in it far longer than you have been alive. The blanket is thick wool, scratchy against your hands, and carries the faint scent of lanolin and smoke. You run your fingers over it, feeling where it has been mended, the stitches uneven but holding. Beneath the bed, you hear the faint scurry of something small, a mouse maybe, or the restless shifting of insects in the rushes. You try not to think about them finding their way into the bed during the night. The room itself leans inward, as if the walls have been listening for too long. The only light comes from the embers in the hearth, and the moonlight slipping through the narrow shutters. There is no lock on the door, only a latch, and it sits loose in its bracket. The sound it makes when you close it is soft, but not soft enough to hide from the one who sleeps beside you. You sit on the edge of the bed and feel the straw give way beneath you with a low crunch. The shift of your weight releases a faint puff of dust into the air, dry and stale, and it clings to your throat. You cough once, quietly, as though the sound itself might wake the house. The pillow, if it can be called that, is little more than a smaller sack stuffed with straw, its edges damp where breath has soaked into it. Night after night, you touch it with your fingertips and feel the uneven lumps, the hard spots where the stuffing has matted together. The fabric is rough against your cheek when you lower your head to it. The fire in the hearth is small, its warmth barely reaching the bed. The cold finds its way in through the shutters and under the door, settling against your feet until they ache. You pull the blanket over yourself, tucking it under your chin, but the chill still lingers. It will be hours before the weight of your own body heat makes any real difference. You listen to the sounds of the house, the slow drip of water from somewhere in the walls, the occasional groan of the timber frame as it shifts, the faint rasp of the man's breathing beside you. His back is turned, but the space between you feels small. You keep still, the way you have been taught to in every moment where your own comfort is not the point. You think of your old bed, smaller, but yours, the smell of your mother's hearth, the way the straw was changed when the smell grew sour, the warm press of your sister beside you on cold nights. Here there is no one to whisper to in the dark. The walls keep their own counsel, and the air feels heavier for it. When sleep does come, it comes in fits, a half-dream of being back where you were, only to wake with the scratch of the wool against your chin, the sound of someone else's breathing in your ear. You close your eyes again, and force yourself to stillness, letting the rocking in your mind, the slow sway you've carried since walking down the aisle this morning, lull you towards something softer. The straw shifts again beneath you, sighing under your weight. The blanket smells of lanolin and wood smoke. The hearth crackles once and then falls silent. The cold lingers just as it did yesterday, just as it will tomorrow. Rest now. There is no other bed for you. The dress hangs on you in a way that tells the truth. Even if no one else will say it aloud, it is not made for you. The sleeves are a little too long, the waist a little too loose, the hem brushing the floor in a way that makes walking careful work. It was chosen not because it fit, but because it would do. The wool is coarse, the kind that scratches your skin until it warms enough to soften, and even then it never truly stops. You feel it at your elbows, where the skin is thinner, and at your collar, where the neckline rubs with every turn of your head. The weight of it is constant, heavy on your shoulders, pulling against your hips when you move. Underneath you wear a shift of undyed linen, the one part of your clothing that is meant to be against the skin. It is lighter, softer than the wool, but it still carries the faint smell of lye from the last washing. The cloth is worn thin in places, especially at the seams, but it is the only thing that keeps the wool from biting deeper. Around your waist is a belt of leather, the edges curling where it has been bent too many times. It is fastened with a simple iron buckle, cool against your fingers when you adjust it. From it hangs a small pouch, empty for now, and a knife, small, blunt, meant more for cutting bread than for protection. The belt is practical, but it also reminds you where the dress pulls tight and where it gapes. Your feet are wrapped in wool hose, the threads uneven from being mended over and over. The shoes are leather, stiff and dark, with a faint creak of age in every step. They are not new, and they were not made for you. You can feel the places where another foot's shape has worn itself into them, the dip at the heel, the curve at the arch that doesn't match your own. Over it all, when you step outside, there is a cloak, thicker wool dyed a muted brown, clasped at your chest with a pin of bronze. The cloak smells of smoke from the hearth, and the faint must of damp that never fully leaves. When the wind catches it, it lifts around you like something trying to take flight, but its weight always pulls it back down. It is not clothing for beauty, though they may tell you it makes you look like a wife should. It is clothing for work, for cold, for the kind of life where cloth is dear and must last through years of seasons. Every stitch tells you that this is not about you, it is about the role you are now meant to fill. And yet, when you catch your reflection in a pot of water, the shape looking back at you is not entirely unfamiliar. The wool hangs differently than the clothes you wore before, but it is still your shoulders it rests on, your hair it brushes at the collar. You look older than you did yesterday, but not older in the way you thought growing up would feel. The fabric shifts against your skin as you move. The belt creaks. The shoes press into your heels. It will feel the same tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Rest now. You will wear it again in the morning. Morning does not arrive with the soft welcome of light through wide windows. It seeps in through the cracks in the shutters, pale and cold, more shadow than brightness. You wake to the sound of the fire in the hearth, breathing its last, the soft crumble of embers collapsing under their own weight. The air bites at your nose before you've even moved. You keep still for a moment, letting your eyes adjust, listening. The house is quiet except for the low hum of the wind pressing against the walls and the faint rustle of someone moving in another room. Somewhere nearby, the floor creaks under a steady, heavy step, not in hurry, but in purpose. When you rise, it is not into warmth. The cold of the floor reaches up through the thin wool of your hose, and your dress, hung near the bed overnight, is as chilly as if it had been left outside. You pull it over your head quickly, the roughness of the wool making your skin prickle as it settles over your shift. The belt is fastened by habit now, the clasp cold against your palm. The first task is always the hearth. Even before bread, before water, before anything else, the fire must be coaxed back to life. You kneel before the grate, blowing gently on the embers, your breath turning to mist in the air. The faint red glow brightens under your coaxing, the smell of last night's smoke lifting again into the room. You add kindling, dry twigs from the bundle in the corner, and wait for the small snap and hiss. That means the fire is willing to return. Once the flame catches, the room changes, though only slightly. The cold still lingers, but the shadows soften, and the air feels less empty. You set a pot of water over the heat, knowing it will take longer than you want. The handle is warm before the water is. There is no wash basin here for leisurely cleaning. Water for washing is fetched from the bucket in the corner. Water that was carried yesterday from the well, heavy and awkward in its wooden pail. You splash a little onto your hands and face, the chill sharp enough to make you inhale through your teeth. There is no soap for this. The water is enough to wake you, if not to make you feel truly clean. If there is bread, you slice it. If there is none, you wait for the dough to rise, keeping the bowl near the hearth so the yeast can do its work. Sometimes there is ale to pour into a cup, thin and sour, but safer than water left too long in the bucket. Sometimes there is nothing until later. The rest of the morning depends on the house. You might sweep the rushes on the floor, pulling away the ones that have grown too foul with scraps and soot. You might mend a sleeve or darn a stocking, your fingers moving slowly in the dim light. You might be told to wait, to sit still until you are needed, the hours stretching like rope in your hands. There is no moment of stillness that is yours alone. Even in silence, you are aware of the other presence in the house, the man you now live with, whose steps are heavier than yours, whose voice decides the day's course. The air shifts when he enters the room. You keep your hands busy when he does. The morning ends not with a bell, not with any sign you could point to, but with the simple fact that it is no longer morning. The light has changed. The water in the pot has boiled away. The fire needs tending again. And tomorrow you will do all of this again, just like yesterday, just like the day before. Rest now. The day is already waiting for you. It is never a private thing. Not here. Not now. The house has no small chamber tucked away for such matters. No wooden seat carved for comfort. No running water to carry anything away. The morning's relief is done outside, behind the lean-to at the edge of the yard, where the mud is cold and the wind finds its way under your cloak with sharp fingers. You step carefully, your shoes sinking slightly into the damp ground as you make your way there. The air smells faintly of the hearth smoke from the house, but stronger still of the pit itself, a sour, heavy scent that clings to the air even in winter. The ground is uneven, littered with straw and bits of refuse, and you place your feet where the earth looks driest, though there is no such thing as dry here. The privy is nothing more than a wooden box with a hole cut into the top, set over a dark space you do not wish to look into. The wood is rough under your hands when you steady yourself, the grain splintered in places from years of use. The air inside is colder than outside, a still, unmoving chill that smells of rot and time. Sometimes in the dark below you hear movement, small, quick things shifting through what's been left behind. You don't look long enough to see them. You do what you came to do as quickly as your body allows, bracing yourself against the icy air, the sound of the wind catching in the gaps of the boards. When it is done, you step away, pulling your cloak tighter, the wool scratching against your chin. You walk back toward the house, the ground sucking slightly at your shoes with each step, the smell following you for a few breaths before the hearth smoke takes over again. On days when the weather is too harsh, when snow piles against the door or the wind cuts like a knife, the privy is not used at all. Then it is a chamber pot by the bed, its contents emptied later when the air is kinder. The pot is heavy when full, the slosh of it unpleasant in your ears, the smell clinging to the hands of whoever carries it out. There is no soap to follow, no clean-scented cloth to wash away the trace. A quick rinse from the bucket if there is water to spare, or simply the wiping of your hands on your apron, is all there is, and then the day goes on, as though none of it happened. You do not think of it unless you have to. There are many things like that here. Just like yesterday. Just like the day before. Rest now. The wind will be colder tomorrow. It is not the kind of meal that fills the air with comfort. No scent of warm butter melting over fresh bread. No steam from thick porridge rich with cream. Here, breakfast is whatever is left from the day before, and sometimes nothing at all. If there is bread, it is yesterday's, its crust gone hard enough to scrape your gums when you bite into it. The centre is denser now, heavy with the damp that seeps into everything in this house. You chew slowly, working it down with the help of a swallow of ale, thin and sour, poured from the same jug that will be used again at night. Water is kept for cooking, and for what cannot be done without it. Ale is safer, even when it tastes like the bottom of a barrel. Sometimes there is a scrap of cheese, the kind that breaks in uneven chunks when you cut it, its edges already turning darker from the air. You eat it carefully, your teeth pressing through its toughness, the salt lingering on your tongue longer than the taste itself. If you are lucky, and luck is rare enough to notice, there might be a piece of bacon fat saved from the last slaughtering, fried in a small iron pan over the hearth. It hisses in the heat, the smell filling the room in a way that makes your stomach clench. But there is never enough to satisfy, just enough to remind you of the hunger that will return before the day is half over. The table is small, the wood worn smooth in places and splintered in others. You sit where you are told, your back to the draught from the door, your hands in your lap until it is your turn. There is no chatter, no lingering over the food. It is eaten quickly, efficiently, as though the act itself is simply another chore to be finished. The sounds of breakfast are quiet but constant. The scrape of a knife on wood, the dull thud of a loaf being cut, the faint creak of the bench as someone shifts their weight. The fire pops once, sending a thread of smoke curling toward the rafters. Outside, a rooster calls, the sound distant, as though it belongs to another house, another life. When the bread is gone, when the last sip of ale is swallowed, the table is cleared with the same silence it began with. The crumbs are brushed into a hand, the knife wiped on a cloth, the cups stacked neatly to the side. The hearth is tended again, not for comfort but for the work that will follow, heating water, boiling what needs to be boiled, keeping the coals alive until evening. Your stomach feels heavier than it did when you woke, but not full. Breakfast here is not about fullness. It is about making it to midday without faltering. Just like yesterday, just like the day before. Rest now. The day will take its share soon enough. The day begins not when the sun rises, but when you are told it does. Light has barely pushed through the shutters when the first task is given, and from that moment forward there is no part of you that belongs to yourself. Your hands are small, but they are not spared. The hearth must be kept alive. Embers stirred, more wood brought in from the stack outside. The wood is damp this morning, and each piece is heavier than it should be. Your fingers ache from the cold before you've even set them near the fire. The floor must be swept, though it is covered in rushes meant to hide the dirt. You pull away the foulest ones, brittle straw darkened with spilled ale, bits of food trodden underfoot, the pale husks of insects that died in the night. New rushes are scattered in their place, green enough to release a faint sharp scent when you crush them beneath your feet. There is mending to be done. You sit by the hearth with a length of linen in your lap, the needle heavy between your fingers. The thread is coarse and frays if you pull too hard. You push the needle through the fabric slowly, your fingers brushing against the roughness, the tiny pricks of the metal finding the soft skin near your nails. When the men go out to tend the animals, you follow carrying a bucket half your size. The chickens scatter at your feet, their claws scratching against the frozen ground. You gather their eggs carefully, the shells cool and smooth in your palm. A cracked one will be noticed. A missing one will be remembered. At the well, you lower the bucket on its rope, listening to the splash far below. Pulling it up is work that leaves your shoulders burning, the rope biting into your hands. The water sloshes against the wooden sides as you carry it back. spilling a little with each uneven step. Your arms shake by the time you reach the door. Some days, you help with the bread. You grind grain between the heavy stones, the sound of them grating together filling the room. The flour dusts your hands, your dress, the air itself. It clings to the inside of your nose, the taste of it faint and dry on your tongue. Kneading the dough is warmer work but harder. The push and fold, until your wrists ache. If there is washing, it is done at the stream. You kneel on the cold ground, your dress damp at the hem, your fingers stiff as you scrub cloth against the washboard. The water steals the heat from your skin until your hands turn red, the joints stiffening until they barely move. You wring each piece out and hang it over the line, the cloth snapping in the wind like sails. There is no hour for rest. When one task is done, there is another. Fetching more wood, scouring the pot with sand, picking the stones from a sack of grain, scraping the tallow from the bottom of a candle mould. Your back bends until it aches. Your knees press into the cold floor until they are numb, and still the work goes on. By the time the sun is sinking, your hands are rougher than they were this morning. The lines in your skin are filled with ash, flour, and cold water. Your shoulders feel as though someone has hung weights from them. But there is no praise for this, no gentle word of thanks. The work is what you are here for, just like yesterday, just like the day before. Rest now. Tomorrow will be heavier. You are seen, but not truly looked at. You move through the household like a shadow, present but easy to overlook. The servants nod without meeting your eyes. The children watch you with a mixture of curiosity and caution. And the adults, well, their gazes are measured, weighed, and usually cold. The man you are bound to is rarely gentle. His voice carries the weight of command, his hands the authority of a master. When he speaks, the house listens. When he looks your way, your heart hurries in your chest, but his eyes do not soften. You learn quickly how to lower your gaze, to keep your voice quiet, to make yourself smaller. The women of the house offer no kindness. Some are too busy with their own burdens to notice you. Others see you as competition, a child forced into a role you have not chosen. Their smiles are thin, their words clipped, and their watchful eyes never miss when you falter. The children are the only ones who show you something like warmth. Sometimes they do not understand why you wear the dress that makes you older than you feel, or why you carry the weight of silence so heavily. They reach for your hand in moments of bravery, but you pull away, unsure of what you are allowed to give or receive. At market or church, you are part of the crowd, an anonymous face among many. Strangers treat you as they treat any girl, with polite distance and the occasional glance that lingers a little too long. You learn to read their intentions in the tilt of a head, the narrowing of eyes, the set of a jaw. Your place is uncertain, neither child nor woman in their eyes, and you carry the confusion with you like a secret too heavy to share. You do what you are told, when you are told, and pray that the days will pass without incident. Sometimes in the quiet moments you wonder if you will ever be seen for who you are, or if you will always be the girl trapped between roles, between expectations, between futures that have been decided without you. Just like yesterday, just like the day before. Rest now. Tomorrow the eyes will watch again. The cold is relentless, but the filth is more so. You have learned that dirt is not just on the skin or in the hair. It is in the very air you breathe, in the cracks of the walls, and in the shadows that gather beneath the furniture. Washing is a ritual of survival, not comfort. Water is scarce, and you guard it carefully. The basin of cool water by the hearth is used sparingly, wiped clean with a rough cloth that has seen too many days without freshening. Your hands are rough and cracked, the nails dirty beneath their edges, and no amount of rubbing seems to make the grime disappear. Boils and sores are common companions. You have felt the sharp sting of one on your arm, the skin reddened and swollen, the ache growing deeper each day. You cover it with your sleeve, hoping no one notices the way you flinch when it is touched. The house smells faintly of herbs, dried bundles hanging in the kitchen, but their strength is limited, and the pain lingers. Your teeth are stained and uneven, blackened by neglect and the rough bread you eat. Sometimes the gums bleed, making the taste of the mouth bitter and metallic. There is no dentist here, no remedy beyond harsh rinses and prayers whispered in the dark. Lice are unwelcome but expected guests. You find them in your hair, crawling and biting, and you scratch until your skin is raw. The coarse wool of your dress and cloak provides little refuge, and the itch follows you even when you are still. You are aware, always, of the dangers that linger unseen, the illnesses that spread in silence, the fevers that take hold before the sun has set, the weakness that makes the body betray itself. The house has its sick corners, places whispered about and avoided. The sick are cared for only when there is no other choice, and even then the care is fragile and limited. You wash your hands before meals, but the water is cold and the cloth is rough. You breathe the smoke from the hearth and the stale air of the rooms, knowing that cleanliness is a luxury that will wait for another time if there is one. Just like yesterday. Just like the day before. Rest now. The cold is sharp, but you have survived it once more. The walls have ears, but the law has sharper teeth. It is not written in books here, but carved into every look, every gesture, every whispered warning. The smallest mistake can echo louder than the loudest cry. Punishment is swift, and often cruel, a word spoken out of turn, a door left unlocked, a step taken where it should not be. Each can bring a sharp reprimand, a lash of a belt, or a punishment that leaves marks deeper than skin. There is little mercy for a girl who must learn to be quiet and small. Tears are a weakness, and fear a constant companion. The man who holds your fate watches for signs of defiance, and in his gaze you read the unspoken, obey or be broken. In the village, the law is enforced by men with rough hands and little patience. They patrol the streets with heavy sticks, their eyes cold and searching. Their presence is a shadow that follows, ready to strike at the first sign of trouble. Whispers travel fast, of girls who spoke back, of women who dared to claim their own voice, of punishments meted out in dark alleys. You keep your head down, your hands busy, and your thoughts quieter still. The church offers another kind of law, one woven with sin and salvation, with prayers that bind as tightly as chains. You learn the words, the posture, the fear that lies beneath the hymns. Confession is a ritual of release and control, a place where sins are named and weighed, but not always forgiven. You carry the knowledge that disobedience has a cost, and you walk carefully along the narrow path between survival and ruin. Just like yesterday, just like the day before. Rest now. The night watches, but it will not speak. Faith is a thread woven tightly through the fabric of your days, sometimes a comfort, sometimes a burden too heavy to bear. You have been taught the prayers and the rituals, the names of saints whose stories fill the pages of worn books and the voices of the village. The church is a place both feared and revered. Its cold stone walls hold the weight of promises and punishments, of salvation and sin. You know the prayers by heart, whispering them in the quiet moments, hoping they will keep you safe from the shadows that linger at the edges of your world. Superstitions cling like cobwebs, a knot in the thread of daily life. You avoid walking under ladders. You cross yourself when you pass a graveyard, and you fear the curse that comes with breaking a mirror. The old women speak of spirits that wander at night, of omens in the flight of birds, and of charms woven from herbs to keep misfortune at bay. There are rituals for protection, a pinch of salt on the windowsill, a sprig of rosemary tucked into your dress, a small cross carved from wood hung around your neck. You carry them all, whether you believe or not, because to do otherwise is to invite danger. The prayers and superstitions mingle with the fear that shadows your steps, fear of the unknown, of the wrath of gods, of the wrath of men. You clutch your rosary beads tightly, the smooth wood worn by your fingers, a reminder that even in darkness, there is a light to follow. Just like yesterday, just like the day before. Rest now. The saints watch quietly as you sleep. The day ends as it began, with little ceremony and less comfort. Dinner is a modest affair. A simple plate, passed quietly around the table, the food often cold before it reaches you. If there is broth, it is thin, a watery stew of vegetables and scraps of meat, boiled until the flavours have long since fled. The scent is faint, but enough to stir hunger that has been gnawing since morning. You sip it slowly, careful not to burn your tongue on the moments of warmth it offers. Bread, if there is any left, is dense and dry. You break it into small pieces, chewing slowly to stretch the meal, your jaw aching from the effort. Sometimes a piece of cheese joins the plate, crumbly and sharp, its taste lingering longer than you wish. The room is dim, lit by a single candle whose flame flickers against the uneven walls. Shadows dance and stretch, filling the corners with dark shapes that feel alive in the quiet. The chatter of the day has faded, replaced by the soft scrape of utensils and the occasional sigh. You sit where you are told, the weight of the dress heavy on your lap, your hands folded tightly. The man whose presence shapes your life is at the head of the table, his voice low and commanding, his eyes watching. You eat in silence, the food a necessity rather than a pleasure. Outside, the night presses in, the cold seeping beneath shutters and doors. The hearth fire dwindles, casting a last glow before the room slips into darkness. Dinner ends not with gratitude or warmth, but with the quiet knowledge that the day's labours are not done, and tomorrow will come soon enough. Just like yesterday, just like the day before. Rest now. The night holds you gently for a little while longer. Sleep is both a refuge and a trial. Your dreams drift in softly at first, like a distant whisper, but soon they fill the quiet with images that tug at the edges of your mind. Sometimes you dream of freedom, running through fields of tall grass, sunlight warm on your face, the wind catching your hair as if it could carry you away from the walls that bind you. You feel the earth beneath your bare feet firm and alive, and you laugh without fear or caution. But these dreams slip away quickly, leaving only the faintest trace of warmth that vanishes with dawn. Other nights, the dreams are darker. You find yourself in the cold chamber where the bed lies, but the walls close in, shrinking until there is no space to breathe. The man's face blurs, becoming a shadow that reaches out with hands you cannot hold, hands that press down until the air is gone. You wake gasping, your heart pounding, the chill of the room sharper than before. Sometimes the dreams carry the voices of those you have lost. A mother's soft singing, a sister's laughter, a friend's farewell. Their faces are clear, bright against the dimness, but you know they belong to a world you cannot return to. You reach out in your sleep, but your hands find only the cold air. You dream of days that might have been, a home filled with light, a future shaped by your own hands, a life measured not in obedience but in choice. These are fragile dreams, easy to shatter with the weight of morning. And there are nights when you dream of nothing at all, a blankness that is both peace and void. You wake from these moments feeling both rested and lost, as though you have slipped through the cracks of time itself. The dreams carry the hope and the horror of your days woven together in the silent hours when the world holds its breath, just like yesterday, just like the day before. Rest now. The night has not yet ended. You know, though you try not to think about it too often, that danger lives in every corner of your world. It waits beneath the hearth's faint warmth, in the cold shadows of the walls, in the heavy air that never quite feels safe. Death is not a distant stranger here. It is a patient visitor, always watching, waiting. The cold is a silent killer. It creeps beneath your cloak in the dead of night, slipping into your bones until you cannot remember warmth. Your fingers grow numb, the tips white and aching, your breath shallow and quick. You wrap yourself tighter in your thin woolen layers, but they are no shield against the relentless chill that lives outside the hearth's flickering glow. You think of the others, children curled in corners, women shivering in drafty rooms, and wonder who will breathe their last before the next dawn. Disease is a shadow that moves quietly through the house, unseen but keenly felt. Fever creeps like smoke, burning low and slow until the body surrenders to its weight. Coughs echo in the halls, harsh, rasping sounds that steal breath and strength. Boils swell beneath skin, painful and inflamed, their sores leaking with slow insistence. The sight of pale faces and hollow eyes is common, though no less frightening each time. You have seen women carried away, their bodies too weak to stand, their lips blue and cracked. The water you drink is not always clean. You know better than to complain when the cup is passed. Even the smallest offering is precious here, yet you feel the bitterness of the water, the faint grit of mud and earth clinging to its edges. The thought of sickness carried in each swallow makes your stomach twist, but hunger and thirst demand their due regardless. Accidents happen in the kitchen, and the fields, a cut from a dull knife, a fall on uneven stones, a hand burned by careless fire. Infections fester where wounds are left bare, and the slow rot can take hold before the pain becomes unbearable. You cover the scrapes and bruises the best you can, hiding the evidence of falls and knocks beneath your sleeves. Childbirth is a danger that hangs over every woman's life like a storm cloud. You hear the whispered stories of girls who never survived their first labour, of mothers who lost their babies before the dawn, of the pain so fierce it steals breath and hope both. The midwife's hands are gentle but limited, and prayers are offered more often than medicine. You feel the weight of it now in your bones, even if your body has not yet known it. Hunger is a slow death, gnawing at your insides day by day. The meals are small, the bread hard and dry, the broth thin and watery. You count the days between full meals, and with each one your strength fades a little more. The cold seems sharper when your body is empty, the labour heavier, the silence more profound. Violence is another threat, whispered in the village tales, felt in the sudden sharpness of a man's gaze, in the tightening of hands that are supposed to protect. You learn to be quiet, to move carefully, to avoid angering those whose mercy is thin and whose power is sharp. You know that a harsh word or a careless glance can lead to bruises that never fully heal, to nights spent in fear. The law offers little protection. It is an uneven hand, harsh to the weak and blind to the strong. Justice is slow or absent, and sometimes cruelty is its only face. You have seen women punished for crimes they did not commit, for things said or done in desperation. You have heard of punishments carried out in secret, leaving scars visible only to the heart. And above all, there is the fear of being forgotten, not by the world, but by those who matter most. You think of the women who came before you, whose names are lost to time, whose stories live only in the worn walls of this house and the whispers of the village. You wonder if you too will fade into silence without a trace, carried away by the same cold winds that scour the fields. Yet, despite all this, you rise each day. You carry the weight of fear like a mantle, weaving it into the fabric of your life so tightly that it becomes part of who you are. You learn to live in the presence of death without letting it break you, to find moments of grace amid hardship, to hold on to hope when the world offers so little. Just like yesterday, just like the day before. Rest now. You have survived this day, and that is enough for tonight. There are worlds beyond the walls of this house. Worlds you will never walk, skies you will never watch unfold, and faces you will never know. These absences settle in the quiet corners of your mind like shadows lengthening at dusk, pressing gently but persistently until they become part of you. You will never see the wide open fields where the grain ripples like gold under the sun's soft breath. The heavy scent of blooming wildflowers carried on the warm breeze will remain a mystery to you, as will the hum of bees lost in the harvest. The earth there is soft and forgiving, unlike the hard-packed mud beneath your feet that never seems to dry fully, trapping you in its cold, dark grip. You will never hear the laughter of children playing freely in the village square, their voices rising and falling with joy that knows no bounds. Instead, you learn the sound of silence, soft footsteps behind you, the lowering of eyes when you pass, and the hush that falls over rooms when your name is spoken. The games, the songs, the secrets shared beneath wide summer skies. These are stories others carry while you carry your burdens alone. You will never taste the sweetness of fresh berries picked from hedgerows bursting with life, nor the crisp freshness of apples warm from the orchard's sunlit embrace. Instead, you know only the bitterness of stale bread and the harshness of thin broth, flavors that cling to your tongue like the dust that settles in the corners of the house. The rare spoonful of honey offered at feast days becomes a treasure you savor silently, a fragile spark of light in the long shadow of routine. You will never see the grand halls where noble women gather, their gowns flowing like rivers of silk, their laughter ringing clear and unburdened. You will not walk beneath the tapestries that tell stories of heroism and love, nor sit at tables heavy with roasted meats and spiced wine. Instead, your world is the narrow chamber, the dim heartlight, the whispered prayers before a night that brings little comfort. You will never hold a book bound in leather, its pages soft and fragrant with the knowledge of ages. The letters, intricate and beautiful, will remain locked behind doors of ivory and oak, meant for eyes that never meet yours. Stories of saints and sinners of worlds beyond this one will drift like distant stars, visible perhaps, but forever out of reach. You will never know the freedom of choosing your path, of following your own desires without the heavy hand of expectation pressing down. The promise of love, of passion shared beneath open skies, will be replaced by duty and silence. The touch of gentle hands and the whisper of kind words will be shadows in your dreams, flickering and fading with the dawn. You will never see the ocean's endless horizon, the way the sky and sea blur together in a dance of blues and greys. The salt air, the crashing of waves, and the call of gulls will be things you hear only in stories told by those who have travelled far beyond the confines of your world. Your view will be the narrow streets, the stone walls, the close roof lines that trap the smoke and muffle the light. You will never know the soft warmth of sun-dappled afternoons spent in quiet gardens where roses bloom and bees hum their lazy songs. Instead, the chill of early mornings, the weight of damp cloaks, and the ever-present scent of wood smoke and mould will shape your senses. The colours you see will be muted, greys, browns, and the occasional flicker of flickering candlelight. You will never witness the birth of a child in the glow of a sunlit room surrounded by family's gentle smiles. Instead, birth will be whispered in fear and pain, shadowed by the weight of uncertainty and the silence of rooms too often filled with grief. The joy of new life will be a story told in soft voices, never fully known or held. You will never dance beneath the stars in the village square, feet bare on the cold stones, laughter spilling like music into the night. Your nights will be spent in quiet rooms, where the only movement is the slow passing of time and the flicker of a candle's dying flame. And yet, these things you will never see do not vanish completely. They live inside you, haunting the edges of your thoughts, shaping the dreams you dare to dream in the quiet hours. They are the what-ifs and the might-have-beens that settle like dust on the fragile window panes of your mind. Sometimes, when the day is done and the world is still, you reach for these unseen places, not with your hands but with your heart. You hold them close, fragile and distant, like a secret kept safe beneath your cloak. Just like yesterday, just like the day before. Rest now. The unseen will wait for you, quietly, until another day comes. You carry the weight of what you will leave behind like a secret folded deep within your bones, a story told in silence and absence. Your life is measured not by grand monuments or celebrated tales, but by the quiet traces left in the dust and shadow, fading with every passing day until only whispers remain. If you vanish tomorrow, whether into the cold earth beneath the churchyard, or into the endless dark of the unknown, what remains will be small and unremarked. Perhaps a handful of worn garments folded carelessly in a chest, a piece of broken pottery cracked at the edges, or a patch of earth pressed down where your body rests. No stone will bear your name, no song will sing of your deeds. The house you've lived in will creak and settle in the years to come, the hearth long cold, the rushes trodden thin. Your place will be filled by another, your name forgotten, as easily as the fading scent of smoke on the wind. Even the walls that heard your whispers will grow silent, wrapped in layers of dust and memory that no one will care to unearth. What you leave behind is not yours to keep. It is scattered like chaff on the wind, stories half remembered, glimpses caught in the eyes of those who knew you briefly before they, too, faded away. A child you taught to tie a knot, a neighbour who shared a crust of bread, a fleeting smile from a stranger in the market, all fragments that drift beyond your reach. Sometimes you wonder if your touch remains in the things you once held, an iron cooking pot blackened with soot, the wooden stool you sat on, the coarse linen shirt patched and worn thin. These are relics of a life lived quietly, without ceremony or fanfare, their significance only understood by the dust and silence that now claim them. You leave behind the marks of labour, the calluses on your hands from endless chores, the faint scars on your knees from countless hours spent kneeling, the ache in your back from bending over fires and fields. These are the unspoken legacies etched not in stone but in the body that bore them, a testament to endurance rather than glory. What you leave behind is also woven in the lives of others. The children you nurtured, the women whose hands you held in fear and hope, the men whose eyes met yours with something unspoken. They carry pieces of you not as memories carved in marble, but as quiet pulses beneath their own skins, threads tangled in the fabric of their own lives. The words you never spoke, the dreams you never chased, the love you never gave, these too are parts of what you leave behind, silent shadows that linger long after the body is gone, whispered in moments of solitude, buried beneath layers of survival and silence. You will not leave behind a legacy, written in gold or sung by minstrels. Your story is the one told in the soft sighs of the night, in the gentle closing of eyes after a day too heavy to carry, in the fading of footprints in the dirt that no one follows. Yet in this quiet vanishing, there is a kind of grace. To be forgotten by history is to be freed from the weight of expectation, from the cruel judgment of time. Your existence, brief, fragile and unseen, is part of the endless turning of the world, a single note in the vast, unending song of life and loss. Just like yesterday, just like the day before. Rest now. What you leave behind will go where it is needed, even if you cannot see it. The day is done. The hearth's last embers whisper low and fading, sending tendrils of smoke curling toward the heavy beams overhead. The house settles around you with a tired groan, the walls creaking softly, as though they too are ready to rest after the long and unyielding day. The air is thick with the weight of silence, a silence so profound it seems to press against your skin, seeping into your bones. You lie beneath the coarse woolen blanket, its roughness a familiar comfort against your aching flesh. The dim light of the moon seeps through the shutters, pooling in pale patches across the uneven floor, painting shadows that dance slowly like ghosts come to keep you company. Your breath is steady, but it carries the faint tremble of weariness, the kind that has no place for hope or fear, only the simple persistence of being. Your fingers curl loosely around the thin, threadbare sheets, clutching at the remnants of a day that has stretched beyond your strength, yet still held you upright. Outside, the wind murmurs through the crooked chimneys, a soft song that threads through the empty streets, past the closed windows of houses thick with dreams you will never hear. The night is vast and quiet, holding the world in its gentle, unyielding embrace. You think of the faces that crossed your path, some kind, many not. The man whose eyes never softened, the women who spoke in hushed tones, the children whose laughter was rare and fragile. They live now only in the corners of your memory, flickering like candle flames that threaten to wane. The memories press against you, yet do not weigh too heavily. They are not chains but threads, fragile and worn, that weave together the story of a life lived not with grandeur but with quiet endurance. You feel the ache in your limbs, the calluses on your hands, the stiffness in your knees, the burn in your chest from days spent bending and striving. These pains are old friends, familiar as the rough stones beneath your feet, reminders of the days you have survived. Your thoughts drift outward, beyond the room, beyond the house, beyond the village itself. You imagine the vast sky, the endless sea, the forests you will never see. You imagine the soft touch of sun on your face, the scent of flowers carried on the breeze, the sound of laughter without sorrow. But these are dreams yet to come, or dreams that belong to others. Your world is smaller, shaped by necessity and silence, by duties that never cease, by nights filled with quiet prayers and whispered hopes. You breathe slowly, matching your breath to the rhythm of the night, the steady pulse of life that continues despite hardship, despite sorrow. In this moment, you are part of something vast and unknowable, a thread in the fabric of time, woven between what has been and what will never be. No one will remember your name, not the loud songs, not the grand histories, but that is the way of things. The world forgets those who carry its quiet burdens, those who bend beneath the weight of a life not chosen but endured. And yet in the forgetting, there is release. No wolves at the door, no cold in your bones, no shadow that cannot be faced. You have survived another day. Sleep now. Let the silence hold you, gentle and deep. Let the darkness cradle you as a mother would, soft and unyielding. Your story fades into the night, like ash scattered on the wind, carried beyond sight, but never truly lost. Rest. The night is long, and you are safe, if only for now.